and careless. No fast and them fruitful when them fearless. No fat shot bout them kind when them shameless. Them love to crack bone and tear flesh. Politicians left the youth them in a beer mess. They're not helping the people who face their stress. Them still telling lies about them trying their best.
Welcome YouTube, it's A-Maverick and you tune in to I'm Spiritual. Over here makes you see through spiritual lenses. Now, they say there are two sides to a story, perhaps three sides or four, but whatever the amount of side there is, it doesn't matter because there are some stories that you can simply draw conclusions from, or you can come to a conclusion without hearing all the sides, especially when you have evidence. Cool? And what story is this that I'm really referring to? We would have all seen the incident that happened perhaps a week ago where a businessman do a beat down with a nurse, right? And the businessman, because we're gonna call him out by name, Robert Bell. The issue is very perturbing, and I can't see how comes the issue escalated to that. But nonetheless, I'm just here to give my insight on it, right? Now, the first thing that stood out based on the clip that I finally saw and based on stories that I would have heard from different sources, it is said that the man blocking the nurse going about her own business or work or whatever it may be, right? And the nurse was tooting her hand to beg a pass. However, the man seems to not please with giving her pass, believing like he owns the road. However, the businessman was actually talking to persons, they stated, blocking the road while the nurse waits and tooting her on. Cool? The businessman somewhere along the line seems to be very annoyed and disgusted by the nurse behind him tooting her on rather. Went to the car, and it is said that he spat in the nurse's face twice, pulled the nurse out of the vehicle, and from then they're in a tussle, right? Another version stated that he went to the vehicle, spat in the nurse's face twice. The nurse basically trade water for spit by having a bucket of water and flashback water on him because he spat in her face. How the nurse came out of the vehicle, I don't know. Some stated that he pulled her out of the vehicle and then there the rustling began, while some say she stepped out of the vehicle. Now, either way, I find this right here a bit perturbed or confusing because I don't see how a man approaching your vehicle and you don't lock your door, wind up your window. Make him broke the window then, or make him vandalize your vehicle, whatever it may be, destruction of property. You can have him on those charges as well. Go make him do that. But for someone to pull you out your vehicle and then beat you down, I don't understand that story. And if you as a nurse, as a female, believe you can come out of your vehicle and in no confrontation with a male, that alone show you the mindset of the nurse. are females nowadays. And females, I'm gonna say this: a man is 7 times stronger than a woman. Let me repeat: a man is made 7 times stronger than a woman. So all the weakest man is still stronger than a woman. Always have that in mind. And I'm talking about physical strength now because I know this argument can go all over the place. Nonetheless, just keep that in mind. Cool? No, it's surprising that this thing went on and I'm not hearing this word ringing about this businessman, Robert Bell. What word I'm referring to? I'm talking about misogynist, because I saw this word swing around many times carelessly with man that don't deserve to be called a misogynist, but at the same point, man who deserve to be called a misogynist, then he is not referred to as that. They rather don't say anything. They only call him abusive and this and that. But he's clearly misogynistic. Why I said this? In the true definition of the word, because there's no way a man in his rightful mind that love females gonna beat down a female like this, especially a nurse. No, I asked the question, what if it was a man? What if it was a man in that car and he stepped to? What would have happened? Maybe there wouldn't be any wrestling. Probably you would have shot him, I guess. Or maybe you would have to hold this piece. Who knows? But I'm sure there wouldn't be that wrestling with a man. And he could never beat down a man like that. So, speaking of man also, the men them that were around this tussle here, this wrestling match here, where the man clearly have the upper hand and no one seems to hold back the man or something from doing all of that. I want to know, were you scared or what? I'm not sure. I'm confused because I'm not seeing how a man beating down a female like this and two men stand up and watch. I'm not getting that. We're not getting that. And all I heard was, Lord, the female man, you know, if you beat the female so timid and spineless for men. How comes? One of the times I saw where the man weapon dropped on the ground in the holster and the man retrieved the weapon and during the fight gave the man back the weapon, gave the businessman back the weapon. Now, how sensible is that? I was wondering if perhaps his brain lock off at the moment, because there's no sensible person gonna see weapon drop from the person who is in the fight and give them it back unless they want them to use the weapon, which could have happened in this case, because the man same way actually points the weapon at the female, at the nurse, in the end of the clip that I would have seen. It becomes very disturbing, but at the same time, while the female was subdued and on the ground, she asks this. Now, following after she asked that, she was somewhat getting up, right? And don't know if it's another round she want to start or what, but she was somewhat getting up, and the man actually put her back down on the ground and step in her head. Basically, walk in her head. And here goes the scream. No, that was what we call the finishing. In Mortal Kombat, you would have heard finish him or finish her in this case. That was a finishing touch that I think the way how this man beat this female, it has to be personal. Either he have an issue with females or something, or it could merely be karma reaching this nurse for whatever reason, because she asked the question what she would have done to him. But I would have advised her to ask that question to God, what she would have done to deserve this beatdown, because some way, somehow, this beatdown just seems like a retribution or some form of karma. There's no way one person can just get this beatdown just like that. It it's something not adding up here. But with all that said and done, this is not me speaking in any way, shape, or form in defense of Robert or defense of her. I'm just giving insights based on what I would have saw and what I would have heard. Cool? I don't know the female, the nurse, and I don't know the male, Robert Bell, businessman. Cool? So, with that said, all I can say is this. Men, get a hold on yourself, because this regular beatdown of females make no sense. And bear in mind, I'm not a person who don't believe in that once a female fire lick, you do have the right to fire back the lick. But there's a line that you don't cross. And Robert, it never seemed like you were listening to your last name in this beatdown, because all when the bell ring, you're still going. You don't know when to stop, eh? You don't know when to stop. Come on, man. Get a hold of yourself, and I only hope you get all the punishment you rightfully deserve. And for the nurse, I hope you serve as a good testimony, and this message reach all the other females to know that, hey, with men, you don't want to in a wrestling match. You have to protect yourself some way, shape, or form, but not in a boxing match with a man. Cool? And I noticed from the other day, females getting very prideful and always up in men's face. And I'm telling you, females, be careful of that. Cool? Be careful of that. Also, if a man chooses to use his strength, it's not gonna be pretty. In most cases, men are being reserved, but enough is enough at this point. Be a female, be ladylike, be the nurse, and show a more nurturing format, right? Because a lot of females basically going into nurse and they have pretty much not much nurturing about them. They just go into it because it's a career that look good, but they really don't fit the role or career, I should say, right? So with that, hope the message and what to be learned is received and learned. With that, I say I'm spiritual, be spiritual. Until next time.